The cold metal walls of the research ship hummed with quiet energy as Commander Zethkar walked through the narrow corridors, his scaled hands checking the datapad for the third time that morning, the yellow lights casting strange shadows on his reptilian face as he moved toward the main lab where his team waited for him. Dear Yolanthes stood beside the large viewing screen, her forearms moving quickly across the control panel while her compound eyes studied the readings from their latest scan of the dead solar system that had once been home to the legendary humans. The insectoid scientist's wings buzzing softly with excitement as she discovered something that should not exist. "Commander, you need to see this immediately," she called out in her clicking voice, her translator device working to convert her natural speech into something the mixed crew could understand. The urgency in her tone making Zethkar move faster through the ship's corridors. 300 years had passed since the galaxy mourned the loss of humanity, the species that had somehow managed to bring peace between warring races that had fought for thousands of years before the humans arrived with their strange ability to find common ground where none seemed possible. Their diplomatic skills becoming legendary throughout the known worlds. Official records were clear and had never been questioned by anyone in the Galactic Council. Earth had been destroyed by a massive solar flare that turned their home star into a violent monster that burned away all life in the system, leaving nothing but dead rocks floating in space where once a thriving civilization had lived and worked. And Zethkar entered the lab where his team of 12 researchers from 6 different species all stood around the main display, their various forms of communication creating a buzz of excitement that filled the air with clicks and hisses and electronic tones, all of them staring at the impossible readings on their screens. "What am I looking at?" he demanded, his own translator making his growling voice sound almost pleasant to the others, though anyone who knew his species would recognize the dangerous edge that meant he was either very angry or very confused. And right now he felt both emotions fighting in his chest. Dr. Yolanthes pointed one of her 4 hands at the screen where a small moon of the gas giant they called Saturn showed energy readings that made no sense. The signals were weak but definitely artificial and definitely active, which meant something was still working in this dead system after 3 centuries of silence. "The readings suggest a hidden facility beneath the surface," she explained, her excitement making her speak faster than usual. "The energy signature is consistent with life support systems and possibly cryogenic equipment, though the power levels are much lower than they would have been when first activated." The other team members began talking all at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of sound that made Zethkar raise his hand for silence, his military training taking over as he processed this information that could change everything they thought they knew about human extinction. "Are you telling me that something survived down there?" he asked slowly, his voice carrying the weight of 3 centuries of accepted history, the implications of what they had found starting to sink into his mind like cold water, making him feel both excited and terrified at the same time. The insectoid scientist nodded her complex head, her compound eyes reflecting the light from the screens as she pulled up more detailed scans of the hidden facility, showing them rooms and corridors and what looked like rows of cylindrical objects that could only be one thing. "Cryogenic pods," whispered Lieutenant Kex Ara, the blue-skinned navigator whose people had been saved from civil war by human mediators just 50 years before the supposed extinction. Her voice filled with hope and disbelief as she stared at the evidence before them. Zethkar felt his world shifting as he realized what they had discovered. If humans had survived somehow, if they were still alive down there in those frozen chambers, then everything the galaxy believed about their extinction was wrong, and someone had been lying for 300 years. "Prepare the landing shuttle," he ordered, his military instincts taking control even as his mind raced with questions about who could have hidden this truth and why they would want the galaxy to believe humanity was gone forever. the political implications making his head spin with possibilities. Ylanthus began selecting her team for the surface mission while the other researchers continued scanning the hidden facility, their excitement growing as they found more signs of active life support systems and what appeared to be a sophisticated security network still functioning after all these years. The shuttle bay, filled with the sound of preparation as equipment was loaded and checked, the mixed crew working together with the efficiency that came from years of exploration missions. Though none of them had ever faced a discovery that could reshape galactic history, as they descended toward the surface of the small moon, Zethkar wondered if they were about to wake up the dead or discover that humanity had never truly died. His hands gripping the shuttle controls as they approached what might be the most important moment in galactic history since the formation of the Fifth in the Council itself. The facility entrance appeared exactly where their scans had predicted, hidden beneath layers of ice and rock that had been carefully arranged to look natural, the sophistication of the concealment suggesting that whoever built this place had expected to remain hidden for a very long time inside the facility. Emergency lighting flickered to life as their presence activated long-dormant sensors, the corridors stretching away into darkness that held 3 centuries of secrets. And somewhere in that darkness, they could hear the quiet hum of machinery that had been waiting patiently for someone to find it. The cryogenic pod opened with a soft hiss of escaping gases, and Jake Morrison felt consciousness return to him like a slow tide, his mind struggling to remember where he was and why everything felt so wrong, the last clear memory being the emergency protocols activating aboard his ship as Cortex fighters closed in for the kill. Ylanthus monitored his vital signs through her medical equipment while Commander Zethkar stood nearby, both aliens watching carefully as the first human to wake up in 3 centuries slowly opened his eyes and tried to focus on the strange faces looking down at him. "Where am I?" Jake asked, his voice rough from centuries of disuse, the translation device picking up his words and converting them for the alien researchers who had found him in this hidden facility, his military training fighting through the confusion as he tried to assess his situation. The insectoid doctor moved closer with her scanner, her 4 arms working efficiently to check his physical condition, while she explained in her clicking voice that he was aboard a research vessel and had been in cryogenic sleep for a very long time, longer than he would probably want to believe. Jake sat up slowly, his body feeling strange and weak after the long sleep, his eyes taking in the alien faces around him and the technology that seemed both familiar and completely foreign. The realization starting to creep into his mind that something had gone very wrong with the evacuation plan. "How long?" he demanded, his voice getting stronger as his body began to respond properly, the military officer in him taking control. As fear and confusion battled in his chest, his hands automatically checking for weapons that were no longer there, Commander Zethkar exchanged glances with his science officer before answering in his translated growl that 300 years had passed since the destruction of Earth. The words hitting Jake like a physical blow that made him close his eyes and try to process the impossible truth. "That cannot be right," Jake whispered, memories flooding back of the evacuation ships and the desperate race to get civilians to safety. Before the attack came, the classified intelligence about the conspiracy and the frantic efforts to preserve humanity's future. All of it seeming like yesterday in his mind. Ylanthus began asking questions about his identity and his memories, her scientific curiosity about human psychology making her probe gently into his past while the other researchers gathered around to witness this historic moment. The first conversation with a living human in 3 centuries. Jake told them about the Earth Defense Force and his rank as captain, about the secret intelligence that revealed the coming attack and the massive evacuation operation called Project Genesis, his words creating a stir among the aliens, who had always believed the official story about solar destruction. You are saying that Earth was not destroyed by natural causes?" Commander Zethkar asked, his reptilian features showing the confusion and concern that was growing in his mind as he realized the implications of what this human was telling them. About their shared history, the human nodded grimly, his memories becoming clearer as his mind fully awakened from the long sleep, the classified briefings and emergency protocols coming back to him with perfect clarity, along with the terrible knowledge of who was responsible for trying to wipe out his entire species. It was the Cortex Empire and the Stellar Trade Consortium, Jake explained, his voice growing hard with anger as he remembered the intelligence reports and the coordinated attacks on human colonies. They feared our influence in galactic politics and decided to eliminate us completely. Dr. Yolanthus recorded everything, he said while her mind raced with the scientific and political implications of this revelation. Her species had always valued truth above all else, and the idea that such a massive lie had been maintained for centuries shocked her deeply. Jake described the false flag operation that had been designed to make humanity's extinction look like a natural disaster. The coordinated attacks on human settlements and the desperate evacuation efforts that had saved millions of people by hiding them in secret colonies throughout the colonized human settlements, and the desperate evacuation efforts that had saved millions of people by hiding them in secret colonies throughout the galaxy. The evacuation was not complete, he continued, his voice filled with the pain of old memories. We were escorting the last civilian transport when Cortex interceptors found us. Our ship was damaged and we had to establish this emergency facility while the main evacuation continued to the predetermined sites. Commander Zethkar felt his understanding of galactic history crumbling as this human revealed secrets that had been buried for 3 centuries. The knowledge that 2 of the most powerful civilizations had committed genocide and covered it up with lies, making him question everything he had been taught. Where are the other colonies? The reptilian commander asked, though he suspected that this information would be classified at the highest levels, his military mind already understanding that such knowledge would be incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands. Jake looked at each of the aliens carefully, his training as an intelligence officer making him evaluate the trustworthiness of these beings who had awakened him, the weight of millions of lives resting on his decision about how much to reveal to these strangers. That information is classified above your clearance level, he said with a slight smile, using the formal language that his species had always employed when dealing with sensitive intelligence, though his tone suggested that he might be willing to trust them under the right circumstances. Dr. Yolanthus began explaining the current state of galactic politics, describing the Cold War that had developed between the major powers and the instability that had plagued the galaxy since humanity's supposed extinction, her words painting a picture of a civilization slowly tearing itself apart without human mediators. Old conflicts have grown worse, she told him, her compound eyes reflecting the sadness she felt about the state of galactic civilization. Species that had learned to cooperate through human diplomacy have returned to suspicion and hostility. Jake absorbed this information with growing anger and determination, realizing that not only had his people been betrayed and nearly wiped out, but their absence had allowed the galaxy to slide toward chaos and war. The very thing they had worked so hard to prevent. The Galactic Council still exists, Commander Zethkar explained, but it has become weak and divided, with the major powers ignoring its decisions whenever they conflict with their interests, and smaller species living in fear of being dominated or destroyed. The human officer stood up from the medical bed, his body still weak but his mind sharp and focused on the task ahead. The knowledge that his people were still alive somewhere giving him strength and purpose that burned away the confusion and fear. I need to contact the other colonies, Jake said firmly. his voice carrying the authority of someone who had been trained to make life and death decisions under pressure. The galaxy needs to know that humanity survived and that we remember who tried to destroy us. Commander Zethkar realized that he was facing a decision that would affect the course of galactic history. He could report this discovery to the Council and watch as political forces buried the truth again, or he could help this human reconnect with his people and face the consequences of challenging the established. Order Dr. Eulanthus looked between the two military officers and made her own decision, her scientific integrity demanding that the truth be revealed regardless of the political consequences. Her species had always believed that knowledge belonged to all thinking beings. "We will help you," she said simply, her clicking voice firm. With determination, the galaxy deserves to know the truth about what happened to humanity, and those responsible should face justice for their crimes. The communication array aboard the research vessel crackled with encrypted transmissions as news of Jake Morrison's discovery spread through the galaxy's intelligence networks like wildfire, each message carrying the impossible truth that humanity had survived their supposed extinction. And within hours, every major power knew that their carefully maintained lie was about to collapse. A War Marshal Brutaka received the report while reviewing battle plans in his command chamber aboard the massive Cortex dreadnought, his scarred face twisting with rage as he realized that the humans they had tried so hard to eliminate were still alive somewhere in the galaxy, waiting to reveal the truth about who had tried to destroy them. Find this human and eliminate him. Before he can contact the others, he growled to his intelligence chief, his clawed hands crushing the datapad as he spoke. 300 years of peace depends on keeping humanity extinct, and I will not allow one survivor to destroy everything we have built. Director Vixius of the Stellar Trade Consortium read the same intelligence report from his luxurious office overlooking the corporate capital, his cold eyes calculating the economic and political damage that human testimony could cause to his carefully constructed empire, the revelation of their crimes threatening to destabilize the entire galactic economy. Deploy the hunter squadrons immediately, he ordered his security chief through the quantum communicator. This human must be captured alive so we can learn the locations of the other colonies. We cannot allow them to return and upset the current balance of power. Meanwhile, aboard the research ship, Jake Morrison worked frantically with the alien computer systems, his old military access code somehow still functioning in some of the galactic networks. The bureaucratic inefficiency that had frustrated him centuries ago now providing unexpected access to current intelligence. Data Commander Zethkar found himself torn between his loyalty to the Galactic Council and his growing respect for the human officer. The official orders that arrived on his personal communicator demanding Jake's immediate transfer to a secure facility, clearly meaning imprisonment or death for the man who had trusted him. "They want to silence you," the reptilian commander told Jake honestly, his military honor refusing to let him participate in what was obviously a cover-up. "The Council has been infiltrated by agents of the conspiracy, and they fear what you might reveal about their crimes." Dr. Eulanthus continued her interviews with Jake, her scientific recorder capturing every detail about human culture and history that had been lost to the galaxy. Her fascination with human psychology and social structures growing stronger with each conversation, though she knew this knowledge might be suppressed or destroyed. "Your species had something unique," she told him during one of their sessions, her compound eyes reflecting genuine admiration, the ability to find common ground between completely different forms of life, to build trust where none existed before. It was something the galaxy had never seen. Jake felt the weight of that legacy as he worked to establish contact with the hidden human colonies, using emergency protocols that had been designed for exactly this situation, the quantum encryption. Keys still valid after 3 centuries of careful maintenance by automated systems. First response came from a monitoring station in the Outer Rim. A simple acknowledgement that told him the network was still active and waiting for his authentication codes. The knowledge that his people had survived and thrived filling him with hope and determination. "This is Captain Jake Morrison. Authentication. Code Genesis 77 Alpha," he transmitted into the void. His voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was attempting. "Requesting immediate contact with Colonial Command, Priority Alpha. The secret is compromised." The response came within minutes. A voice speaking perfect English with an accent he recognized as coming from the New Terra colony, one of the agricultural worlds that had been established during the Great Evacuation, the familiar sound of his own language bringing tears to his eyes. "Jake Morrison, this is Lisa Hayes. Colonial Intelligence Division," the voice said through the encrypted channel. "We have been monitoring galactic communications and are aware of your situation. Help is already on the way." Commander Zethkar watched the human's face light up with joy and relief as he made contact with his people. The reptilian officer realizing that he was witnessing something historically significant. The moment when humanity announced its return to the galaxy after 3 centuries of enforced exile. "How many colonies survived?" Jake asked into the communicator, his military mind already thinking about resources and defensive capabilities. Strategic situation that his people would face when they revealed themselves to a hostile galaxy. "All 12 primary colonies are operational and thriving," Lisa Hayes replied, her voice carrying pride and determination. "Plus 47 smaller settlements and 3 mobile bases. We have been preparing for this day for 300 years, Dr. Ylanthus felt her excitement growing as she realized the implications of what she was hearing. Humanity had not just survived, but had built an entire hidden civilization, developing new technologies and maintaining their culture while the rest of the galaxy believed them extinct. The conversation was interrupted by warning alarms throughout the research ship as Cortex battlecruisers dropped out of hyperspace nearby, their weapons already charging for an attack that would eliminate the evidence of humanity's survival. The conspiracy moving quickly to protect their secret, evasive maneuvers. Commander Zethkar shouted to his crew, his decision made in that instant as he chose to protect Jake rather than surrender him to those who would silence him permanently. The research vessel's engines powering up for an escape that would mark him as a traitor to some and a hero to others. Jake ran to the tactical station and began analyzing the Cortex attack formation, his military training taking over as he provided targeting data and defensive strategies to the alien crew. His knowledge of enemy tactics proving invaluable in the desperate battle that followed. "They are trying to disable our engines," he called out, his fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls as he adapted human military doctrine to alien technology. "Focus defensive fire on their weapon arrays and prepare to jump to hyperspace on my mark." The research vessel shuddered under enemy fire as it twisted and turned through space, the mixed alien crew working together with desperate efficiency while Jake coordinated their defensive efforts, his tactical expertise keeping them alive against superior firepower. Dr. Ylanthus continued recording everything that happened, her scientific mind understanding that these events would reshape galactic history, the first human to return to active service helping aliens defend themselves against the very species that had tried to commit genocide. "Jump now," Jake shouted as the Cortex formation moved to surround them, the research ship disappearing into hyperspace just as the enemy's most powerful weapons reached full charge, leaving the attacking fleet empty-handed and furious at their failure in the safety of hyperspace. Commander Zethkar realized that he had crossed a line from which there could be no return, his decision to protect Jake making him an enemy of the conspiracy that ruled the galaxy. Though he felt no regret about choosing the right side in this ancient conflict. "Where do we go now?" he asked Jake, his reptilian features showing the resolve of a soldier who had found a cause worth fighting for. The research vessel and its crew Now committed to helping humanity reveal the truth about their survival, Jake looked at the star charts with new understanding. His contact with the Colonial Network providing him with safe coordinates and rendezvous points that had been kept secret. For 3 centuries, the hidden infrastructure of human resistance finally revealing itself. "We go to Haven Station," he said with a smile, his confidence returning as he realized that he was no longer alone in this fight. "It is time for the galaxy to learn that humanity remembers everything, and we are ready to collect the debt that is owed to us." Haven Station materialized around them as the research vessel dropped out of hyperspace, the massive structure appearing from nowhere as advanced cloaking fields, deactivated to reveal a technological marvel that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen, its sleek human design incorporating alien technologies that had been adapted and improved over 3 centuries of hidden development. Jake Morrison felt his breath catch in his throat as he stared at the impossible sight before them, the mobile base stretching for kilometers in every direction, its surface covered with docking bays and weapon arrays and sensor clusters that spoke of a civilization that had not merely survived but had thrived in secret. Admiral Ben Carter's image appeared on the main screen as their ship was guided into one of the smaller docking bays, the elderly human officer's face showing the weathered features of someone who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment, his uniform displaying rank insignia that Jake recognized from the old Earth Defense Force. "Welcome home, Captain Morrison," the Admiral said with a smile that carried 3 centuries of patient planning. "We have been waiting a very long time to bring you back into the fold, and your timing could not be better for what we have planned." Commander Zethkar and Dr. Yelanthis followed Jake through the airlock into a bustling corridor filled with humans of all ages, their faces showing the same determination and quiet confidence that marked a people who had survived the impossible, children playing alongside adults who maintained the vast machinery that kept their hidden world functioning. "This is incredible," Dr. Yelanthis whispered as they walked through the station, her compound eyes taking in every detail of human technology that had evolved far beyond what the galaxy remembered. The integration of dozens of alien innovations creating something entirely new and incredibly advanced. Jake was introduced to Dr. Rachel Stone, the chief scientist whose research teams had spent centuries analyzing captured alien technology and developing revolutionary improvements. Her laboratory filled with devices that could manipulate energy and matter in ways that seemed almost magical. "We never stopped learning," she explained as she showed them quantum disruptors that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. "Every piece of alien technology we could acquire, every scientific breakthrough we discovered, we adapted it all to human needs and improved upon it." The tour continued through vast hydroponic gardens that fed the station's population, manufacturing centers that produced advanced weapons and defensive systems, and training facilities where young humans learned the skills they would need when their people finally returned to claim their place in galactic society. Admiral Carter gathered them in his command center, where holographic displays showed the current state of galactic politics, intelligence reports from sleeper agents throughout known space, and detailed plans for what he called Operation Homecoming, the moment when humanity would announce its survival to the galaxy. "We have been watching and waiting for 3 centuries," he told them, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had dedicated his life to this single purpose. "Every trade route, every military base, every political alliance, we know it all because we have people everywhere." Jake learned that the Human Intelligence Network included agents placed in key positions throughout galactic civilization, some of them the descendants of original sleeper agents who had maintained their cover for generations, their loyalty to humanity passed down through families that had never forgotten their true heritage. Lisa Hayes coordinates the network from her position in the neutral zone, Admiral Carter explained, pointing to a sector of space where several species maintained an uneasy peace. She has been building alliances with species that were oppressed by the Korthex Empire and the Stellar Consortium. Commander Zethkar found himself overwhelmed by the scope of human preparation, realizing that his own species had been infiltrated decades ago by agents who had been quietly gathering intelligence and building support for humanity's eventual return. The conspiracy that had tried to destroy them, now facing a far more sophisticated enemy, Dr. Ylanthus, was given access to human databases that contained 3 centuries of scientific advancement, her excitement growing as she discovered research that could revolutionize everything from medicine to faster-than-light travel. The knowledge freely shared as humans demonstrated their commitment to cooperation rather than domination. "Why did you wait so long to reveal yourselves?" she asked. During one of her conversations with Dr. Stone, her scientific curiosity struggling to understand why such advanced beings had remained hidden when they could have announced their survival at any time. "Because we needed to be strong enough to survive the backlash," the human scientist replied. "Honestly, the powers that tried to destroy us would not hesitate to finish what they started. We had to be certain that we could protect not just ourselves, but our allies when the truth came out." Jake was assigned to lead a team of humans and their new alien allies in conducting rescue operations, using their detailed intelligence to locate human prisoners who had been held in secret facilities throughout the galaxy, the evidence of continued crimes against humanity. Providing both moral justification and political ammunition for their cause, the first rescue mission took them to a consortium research facility where humans had been used as test subjects for illegal experiments, the liberation of these victims providing emotional weight to their cause while demonstrating the ongoing nature of the conspiracy against them. "They never stopped trying to eliminate us," Jake reported back to Admiral Carter after the successful rescue, his voice filled with anger and determination. "Even after they thought we were extinct, they continued to hunt down any survivors they could find." The rescued humans told stories of 3 centuries of imprisonment and abuse, their testimony recorded and prepared for broadcast to the galaxy when the time came to reveal the full scope of the crimes committed against humanity, the evidence building toward a moment of reckoning that had been 300 years in the making. Dr. Ylanthus worked with human psychologists to document the effects of long-term imprisonment on the rescued victims, her research providing scientific evidence of war crimes that could not be ignored or explained away by political necessity. The truth becoming undeniable with each new piece of evidence. Commander Zethkar found himself appointed as a liaison between human forces and potential alien allies, his reputation and military experience making him valuable in approaching species that might be willing to support humanity's return. His own conversion from skeptic to ally serving as proof that cooperation was possible. "The ethereal collective has been waiting for your return," he reported during one planning session. "Their pacifist philosophy aligns with human diplomatic traditions, and they have maintained secret communications with your agents for decades." Admiral Carter began the final preparations for Operation Homecoming, coordinating with colonies throughout the galaxy as human fleets prepared to emerge from hiding, their advanced technology and superior intelligence giving them advantages that the conspiracy could never have anticipated. "We will not seek conquest or revenge," he announced to the assembled human and alien personnel. "Our goal is justice and the establishment of a galactic order that protects all species from the kind of genocide that was attempted against us." Jake stood beside his new alien friends as they watched the final preparations, realizing that he had awakened not just to find his people alive, but to witness the moment when humanity would return to reclaim their role as peacemakers and protectors in a galaxy that desperately needed their guidance. The countdown began for a coordinated revelation that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. 3 centuries of patient planning about to culminate in a demonstration of human resilience and determination that would reshape the balance of power forever. The conspiracy that had tried to destroy them about to face the consequences of their crimes. Tomorrow, the galaxy learns that humanity never died, Admiral Carter said quietly, his words carrying the weight of 300 years of hope and determination. And those who tried to destroy us will discover that we remember everything, and we are ready to ensure that such crimes never happen again. Operation Homecoming began at exactly 0800 Galactic Standard Time as human fleets emerged from hyperspace simultaneously at 12 different locations throughout known space, their advanced ships appearing like ghosts made solid as cloaking fields. Deactivated to reveal the technological marvels that 3 centuries of hidden development had produced, Admiral Ben Carter stood on the bridge of the flagship as Haven Station dropped its concealment and denounced humanity's survival to every communication network in the galaxy, his calm voice carrying across space to billions of beings who had believed humans were extinct. The message simple but devastating in its implications. People of the galaxy, this is Admiral Ben Carter of the Human Colonial Defense Force, he said. Into the quantum transmitter. For 300 years, you have been told that humanity was destroyed by natural disaster. This was a lie designed to cover up attempted genocide by the Cortex Empire and Stellar Trade Consortium. Jake Morrison led the first strike team against a Cortex military depot, their quantum disruptors disabling the base's defenses without destroying them, the precision of the attack demonstrating humanity's evolved approach to warfare as they captured rather than killed their enemies. Every action calculated to minimize casualties while achieving maximum strategic effect. War Marshal Brutaka received reports of simultaneous attacks on military installations throughout Cortex space, his rage growing as he realized that humans had not only survived but had developed technology superior to anything his empire possessed. Their attacks coordinated with surgical precision that spoke of centuries of intelligence, gathering and planning. How many ships do they have? He demanded. From his intelligence officers, his scarred face twisting with fury as report after report confirmed that human forces were striking with overwhelming tactical advantage. Where did they get this technology, and why did our agents never detect their presence? Director Vexius watched his corporate empire's trade centers being systematically disabled by human forces that appeared without warning and vanished just as quickly. Their attacks focusing on key infrastructure while avoiding civilian casualties, the economic damage mounting quickly as consortium operations ground to a halt. Dr. Rachel Stone's revolutionary technologies proved their worth as human forces demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible to their enemies. Consciousness-linking devices allowing instant communication across galactic distances, while quantum disruptors rendered enemy weapons useless without harming the beings who operated them. We are not here for conquest, Jake announced to the Cortex garrison commander as his forces secured another military facility. We are here to end the conspiracy that tried to destroy us, and to ensure that no species ever faces extinction at the hands of those who fear their influence. The galactic response was immediate and chaotic as smaller species that had been oppressed by the major powers began declaring independence, inspired by humanity's return and encouraged by human agents who had been building these alliances for decades. The carefully maintained balance of power beginning to collapse. Commander Zethkar found himself commanding a mixed force of humans and aliens as they liberated prisoners from consortium detention facilities. The rescued beings, including members of dozens of species who had been disappeared for opposing corporate interests, their freedom providing new allies and damning evidence of ongoing crimes. The Ethereal Collective has announced their support for humanity, Dr. Ylanthis reported. From the Intelligence Center, her compound eyes reflecting the excitement she felt as centuries of suppressed truth finally came to light. They are broadcasting the evidence of war crimes to every world in their territory. The battle for the Nexus Point began when combined Cortex and Consortium fleets moved to defend the galaxy's primary trade hub, their commanders believing that superior numbers would overcome human technological advantages. The massive engagement becoming a test of everything humanity had learned during their centuries in exile. Jake led his squadron into the heart of the enemy formation, his pilots using tactics that combined human ingenuity with alien technologies. To devastating effect, their ships dancing through enemy fire with precision that spoke of training and preparation that had been ongoing for generations. Target their command vessels but do not destroy them, he ordered over the tactical network. We need their commanders alive to testify about the conspiracy, and we need their crews to understand that we seek justice, not revenge. The quantum disruptors proved their effectiveness as entire. Enemy squadrons found their weapons and engines disabled simultaneously, the crews unharmed but helpless as human boarding parties secured their vessels and placed them under protective custody. The precision of the operation shocking both enemies and neutral. Observers Admiral Carter coordinated the battle from Haven Station while simultaneously managing diplomatic contacts with dozens of species, human agents throughout the galaxy working to prevent the conflict from escalating into total war, their goal being the collapse of the conspiracy rather than the buffets. Destruction of galactic civilization. We are receiving surrender offers from 17 Cortex commanders, his communications officer reported. They are requesting protection from their own superiors in exchange for testimony about the genocide conspiracy. Dr. Ylanthus documented everything that happened, her scientific recordings capturing the moment when humanity announced its survival and began dismantling the lies that had shaped galactic politics for 3 centuries. Her work becoming the foundation for a new understanding of interspecies relations. Tide of battle turned decisively when Consortium security forces began defecting to the human side, their loyalty broken by the revelation that their employers had committed genocide and covered it up with lies. Corporate mercenaries choosing conscience over profit as the truth spread through the galaxy. War Marshal Brutaka's flagship is requesting safe passage for surrender negotiations. Jake reported to Admiral Carter. His entire fleet is down to emergency power and he has no choice but to accept our terms. Commander Zethkar found himself serving as a translator and mediator as various alien commanders sought to understand humanity's intentions. His own journey from skeptic to ally serving as an example of the trust that humans could build even with former enemies. They could have destroyed us completely, one Cortex captain told him. Instead, they disabled our weapons and offered medical aid to our wounded. What kind of species shows mercy to those who tried to eliminate them? The final phase of the battle saw Haven Station itself entering the combat zone, its massive bulk protected by defensive systems that turned enemy attacks into harmless light shows, the mobile base serving as both command center and symbol of humanity's technological advancement. This is Admiral Carter to all combatants. His voice carried across the battlefield. The Nexus Point is now under human protection. All vessels will stand down immediately and prepare for the arrival of Galactic Council peacekeepers who will oversee the transition to new management. Jake watched from his fighter's cockpit as the last enemy resistance collapsed, Cortex and Consortium forces surrendering rather than face continued battle against opponents who had proven their superiority in every engagement. The conspiracy that had tried to destroy humanity finally brought to its knees. Phase 1 is complete, Admiral Carter announced to the human fleet. We have demonstrated our strength and our restraint. Now comes the harder task of building a new galactic order that will prevent such crimes from ever happening again. The aftermath of the battle saw human forces providing medical aid and humanitarian assistance to their former enemies. The demonstration of mercy and compassion shocking beings who had expected typical military conquest. The foundation being laid for reconciliation rather than revenge. Dr. Rachel Stone began sharing selected human technologies with allied species. Her gifts including medical advances and energy systems that could improve life throughout the galaxy. The knowledge freely given as proof of humanity's commitment to cooperation rather than domination. We did not return to rule the galaxy, Jake told the assembled prisoners and refugees at the nexus point. We returned to ensure that the galaxy rules itself fairly, with justice for all species and protection for those who cannot protect themselves. 10 years had passed since Operation Homecoming shook the galaxy to its foundations, and Ambassador Jake Morrison stood before a classroom filled with young beings from 12 different species. Their eager faces turned toward him as he prepared to teach them about the events that had reshaped galactic civilization. The reformed Galactic Council had established New Geneva Station in neutral space, its gleaming corridors now filled with representatives from hundreds of species who worked together to govern fairly rather than dominate ruthlessly. The democratic structure that humanity had proposed becoming reality. Through careful negotiation and patient diplomacy, why did humanity choose cooperation over conquest after your return? Asked a young ethereal student, her translucent features glowing with curiosity. Your people had superior technology and every right to seek revenge against those who tried to destroy you. Jake smiled as he considered his answer, his mind going back to those crucial days when humanity had to decide what kind of future they wanted to build. The choice between vengeance and justice that had defined their species returned to galactic prominence. Because we learned something during our time in hiding, he replied simply. The galaxy is big enough for all of us, and strong enough to protect each of us, but only if we stand together rather than try to dominate each other. War Marshal Brutaka sat in the Rehabilitation Center on New Geneva Station, his once proud military bearing softened by years of working alongside the humans he had tried to eliminate. His assignment to help build schools and hospitals, serving as both punishment and redemption for his crimes. Director Vexius worked in the Economic Planning Department, his corporate expertise now directed toward fair trade practices and equitable resource distribution, the former oligarch learning to use his skills for the benefit of all species rather than the enrichment of a few. Dr. Ylanthus had published her comprehensive study of human society and psychology, the work becoming required reading for diplomats and politicians throughout the galaxy. Her insights into cooperation and trust forming the foundation for new approaches to interspecies relations. Commander Zethkar wore the uniform of the Reformed Earth Defense Force as he addressed a gathering of military officers from across the galaxy, his journey from suspicious alien to trusted human ally serving as an example of the unity that could be achieved through understanding. The greatest victory was not the destruction of our enemies, he told the assembled officers. It was the transformation of enemies into allies, the proof that even those who commit terrible crimes can be redeemed through justice and patience. Admiral Ben Carter had retired to oversee the restoration of Earth itself, the ancient human homeworld being carefully terraformed using advanced technology shared by all the species who had benefited from humanity's return. The planet becoming a symbol of renewal rather than a monument to lost. Rachel Stone continued her research from laboratories throughout the galaxy, her scientific breakthroughs freely shared with all species as humanity demonstrated their commitment to lifting up galactic civilization rather than hoarding advantages for themselves. Hidden human colonies had revealed themselves one by one, each world becoming a showcase for different aspects of human achievement. New Terra feeding the galaxy with advanced agriculture, while Sanctuary provided medical research that extended lifespans for dozens of species. Lisa Hayes served as head of the Galactic Intelligence Service, the organization she had helped build from the shadows now operating openly to prevent the kind of conspiracy that had once threatened humanity. Her network of agents working to protect all species from similar threats. the tribunal that tried. The conspiracy leaders established important precedents. Jake continued his lecture. No species can claim the right to eliminate another, no matter how powerful they become or how threatened they feel by different ways of thinking. The students listened intently as he described the careful balance between justice and mercy that had marked the post-war trials, the sentences of rehabilitation and community service that had transformed former enemies into contributors to galactic society children. From dozens of species played together in the parks of New Geneva Station, while their parents worked in the council chambers above. The sight that had once seemed impossible now so common that few stopped to marvel at the peaceful cooperation between natural enemies. But some species still distrust each other, pointed out a young Cortex student, his scaled features showing. The confusion of someone raised in the new era of cooperation. How do you prevent old hatreds from destroying what has been built? Jake nodded thoughtfully, understanding that the question came from someone whose people had been taught to fear and dominate others for millennia. The cultural changes required for lasting peace being more difficult than any military victory. Trust is built slowly, one interaction at a time, he explained. Every time someone from your species works successfully with someone from another species, every time differences are resolved through discussion rather than violence, the foundation of peace becomes stronger. The Restoration Project on Earth had become a model for cooperation as engineering teams from multiple species worked together to rebuild what had been lost, their combined efforts creating something more beautiful than the original world had ever been. Your assignment for next week, Jake told his students, is to interview someone from a different species about their family history and cultural traditions. Then write about what you learned and how it changed your understanding of their people. Dr. Ylanthus visited her old friend regularly. There, conversations ranging from scientific developments to philosophical questions about the nature of cooperation and trust, her compound eyes still reflecting wonder at how much the galaxy had changed since they first met. Do you think it will last? She asked during one of their walks through the station's observation deck. This peace we have built, can it survive the pressures that destroyed previous attempts at galactic unity? Jake looked out at the stars that had once seemed hostile and alien, now knowing that among those distant lights were worlds where beings of all species worked together for common goals, the dream of galactic civilization finally becoming reality. It will last because we learn from history rather than repeating it, he said with quiet confidence. Every species now knows what happens when fear and hatred are allowed to guide policy. And most importantly, everyone knows that we are watching to prevent it from happening again. The memorial garden on New Geneva Station honored the victims of the genocide attempt and all those who had died in the conflicts that followed. Beings from every species coming to remember the cost of division and the value of the peace they had built together. Commander Zethkar's children attended the same schools as human children and young beings from dozens of other species. There, friendships representing the future that their parents had fought to create, a generation that would grow up knowing cooperation as natural rather than revolutionary. The greatest lesson from our return, Jake concluded his lecture, is that extinction is never permanent as long as hope survives, and that the strongest civilizations are built not through conquest, but through the willing cooperation of free peoples. Admiral Carter's final report to the Galactic Council summarized 3 centuries of human survival and 10 years of renewed cooperation, his words becoming part of the historical record that would guide future generations in maintaining the peace they had achieved. We did not return to punish those who wronged us, he wrote. We returned to ensure that the galaxy would never again allow fear to triumph over understanding, that no species would face extinction for the crime of being different. The evening celebration in New Geneva's Central Plaza brought together thousands of beings from across the galaxy, their voices raised in songs from hundreds of different cultures as they marked another year of peace and prosperity. The sound carrying hope to the stars themselves, Jake Morrison returned to his quarters that night with the satisfaction of someone who had lived to see his worst enemies become valued. Colleagues, the impossible dream of galactic peace now so firmly established that his students could barely imagine a time when species fought rather than cooperated, quantum communication network that connected every inhabited world, carried messages of friendship and trade rather than threats and demands. The technology that humans had developed in hiding now serving to bind the galaxy together in ways that physical force never could as he prepared for sleep. Jake looked once more at the photograph on his desk showing the crew of his original ship. Those brave humans who had died defending the evacuation that saved their species, their sacrifice finally vindicated by the peace that their survivors had built tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to strengthen the bonds between species. But tonight he could rest knowing that humanity had fulfilled its promise to return and that the galaxy was finally learning to live as one vast, diverse, but united family among the stars.